Everyone, welcome to the Slices of Construction podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. I'm here with the CEO of SmartBarrel, Albert Bou Fadel. How are you today?
I'm good, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let's dive right in. Tell the audience about your background first, and then we'll go into SmartBarrel.
Sure. I probably have a very conventional, maybe non-conventional background. I basically come from construction. Very fortunate when I was studying industrial engineering because I wanted to become an aeronautical engineer and build planes. And obviously, as you guys can see, didn't go as well as I planned. But basically, I was trying to become an aeronautical engineer, and I was approached uh, by an investor, an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur to start a glass factory, as in glass and glazing, which at the time I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know people did that for a living, built windows. Long story short, I ended up co-founding a glass factory. I was still in college at the time, and that was the beginning of my construction career. I ended up doing this across many different continents, many different countries. I ended up working in New York, in Bahamas, Montreal, and finally end up in Miami. And just doing construction, different aspects of it, the commercial, residential, high end, low end. I realized that there's a big pattern, which when it came to labor management, there was like a humongous hole. Again, I get this probably on a daily basis. I don't understand what you do. I don't understand how timekeeping is still a thing, and just like asset management, like labor management is much complicated, and I decided to do something about it, and basically founded SmartBarrel a couple of years ago, and that was my pivot from construction to technology.
So let's say you run up to someone on the street. They've never heard of SmartBarrel. You need to quickly tell them what you do. What do you say for kind of that quick, this is what SmartBarrel does?
HR platform for the construction industry. This is kind of the nutshell without going into a lot of details. This is kind of what I try to get into, and it works great because usually if they're not in construction, it goes into cool, and then they move on. So that's great.
So what do you say when they say, "Ooh, that's interesting. Tell me more"?
Yeah, exactly. Then usually if you get this reaction, they're somehow linked to the construction industry if they show any sort of interest, which is usually great. And then I try to understand what exactly they do, and if they're anywhere near the construction phase of construction, because construction is really, there's a big section which is called pre-construction. This is where you have the architects and drawing and BBC and all the drawing. We don't touch that part. And there's a humongous part which is the construction and this post-construction. So the maintenance, the servicing, the handing over, yada yada. We're very much focused on this section. So if someone is in the construction space, no matter where they are, whether they're a developer, a general contractor, but mostly specialty trades. So you think of your plumber, your drywall, your electrician, yada yada. If they manage workers in any way, shape, or form, whether they're direct employees or they're sub-union or via union or non-union, yada yada, this is when the conversation gets very interesting because we basically control this asset from the minute they join your company till the day they're terminated. So everything from payroll, their time, their attendance, safety, yada yada.
What would you say, like, when they ask, like, what makes SmartBarrel different from maybe some of these other tracking solutions out on the market?
Of course. So we're obviously trying to position ourselves as a time clock to begin with, because this is the first pillar we wanna basically kind of dominate or do like a good impact with. And the reason, probably our biggest differentiation, will make more sense when I explain my background. So as I mentioned, I was in construction, I was in tech. I wore many different hats in construction, but one of them was I was a project manager. I was in charge of project, and we used paper clipboard, which is still the dominant probably timekeeping method out there. And I didn't go from paper clipboard to SmartBarrel. It wasn't that obvious at all. So I decided to procure a lot of technology solution, and I used a bit of everything. I use mobile apps, I use iris scanners, I use fingerprints, I use wearables on the belt, wearables on the hard hat, hand scanners, you name it, I've used it. And what ended up happening is the technology was never flawed. The problem was never the technology. The problem was the technology was never adopted to construction. Construction provides a wide range of challenges, whether it's the environment, but like you don't have power. We're going to connect it to it, right? Or there's no Wi-Fi, there's no internet, there's bad signal working in a basement. Um, there's the nature of the humans, right? It's a high revolving door. You have workers showing up. There's no HR on the job site. The HR is 42 miles away in a building, and then I have 6 guys that just showed up and they need to get paid. And timekeeping is not, we're not a bank, it's not a financial institution, but if you can't like have an 80% timesheet, either you have every in and every out, or you have nothing. It's not like, oh, Thursday, don't worry about it. No, I have to worry about every hour because I have to pay him and it's going to affect. So either you have like 100% excuse free, fraud free solution, or you have nothing. There's nothing in between. So we'd always fall back on paper because paper seems to be amazing. Paper is easy, it's cheap, it's very easily manageable. You don't need developer to add a column. You just say, hey, next to the column, add this checkbox, and that's it. And then it moves around. But the problem is that the data is not verified, blah, blah, blah. So basically, when I got started with even brainstorming the idea of SmartBarrel, it's after I had tried maybe like a dozen of different solutions. They all failed. They failed. I mean, for very many different reasons. Some of them culturally they failed. Like I would have internal fights with the workers because I'm asking them to download an app on their phone, and they're like, "F you! I'm not gonna download an app on my phone. I don't know if you track me at home. Provide me a company phone. But I can't provide company phone. I don't know if you're gonna be working with me next week." So it's like a whole revolving door, which basically created a lot of cultural tension. And this is what people miss most of the time. The cost of sometimes a failed technology adoption is far beyond the price that the contractor charge, like the company charge. Right? My bill is not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that now I burnt my bridge with my foreman, and he burnt his bridge with his workers. And how do you recover from that? So basically, I went through all those like failing experiments, and then I had a project in Tampa, which is about 5 hours from Miami. And every week I would drive back and forth, and they had a technology solution with fault. And then I learned that there's one guy with 25 keychains clocking out the whole crew. And then this was like the tipping point for me. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. I'm just asking for like the bare minimum here. You know what I mean? And this is when I sat down and literally wrote down a list of probably like 120 excuses. But I went through them one by one. Like, in order for the solution to work, it has to be self-powered, self-connected. Foreman is not on site, it should work. Workers first day should work. No HR should, pop, 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 pop. And that's kind of we came up with the concept and started brainstorming about SmartBarrel. So, in a very quick summary, and maybe this is better. What you're seeing here is the original. This is why the name SmartBarrel exists, because what we created is a kiosk that sits on a barrel, and the idea behind it is that you can mount it anywhere, even an empty parking lot. And there's not a lot of creativity. So this is a barrel, and this is SmartBarrel. This makes it dumb. This makes it smart. This is it. That was the whole brilliance behind the name. And the idea is that this is a weatherproof, solar-powered, LTE-connected kiosk that you can deploy anywhere in the field within minutes. No instructions, no training. Once you power it up, it stays up for six to 2 years if you want. Doesn't matter, 6 months to 2 years. And the whole check-in process is as stupid as the following. The worker shows up, they type in their own phone number, hit enter, take a picture of the face, push it to the cloud. We do automatic facial verification, PPE scanning, and yada yada. But the whole idea is it 100% eliminated all sorts of excuses and eliminated all sorts of fraud. And that was kind of the starting point. Obviously, we've been through a product evolution process. Now we have something a bit slicker, same value prop, magnetic, weatherproof, solar powered, yada yada, can work anywhere, everywhere, and just same thing, fob or phone number, picture, push it to the cloud.
I was going to ask you why you're so passionate about this space, but I don't have to, because this is my favorite reason for having the video. You're getting animated, you're getting excited when you're talking about what you've built so far, and I appreciate that you were able to show us like the early model. Not It's very rare that we get to actually see that right on an episode, so I appreciate that. And I can see that you even have the barrel right in your logo. Is it it's
Yeah.
the A, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so so yeah, we've had many, I'm gonna call them opportunities, not call them challenges, of having like marketing join and say like we should change the name, we should have something, because we technically dropped the barrel. But I keep it, the physical product in our offices. I keep it in the logo because this is um, it's very important to always remember to what extent we went to check all the boxes. It could have very easily to put an iPad with a case and just no shortcuts, right? Like we had to build a whole enclosure from the ground up and have it mount on every barrel. There's like 72 different barrel heads in the country that we had to study. So we went so extreme, and then this had allowed us to get to this like super product we have here. And it's important to not forget, not become like orange box or telemetrics or stupid AI. Like just stick to your roots, kind of thing.
So now, how do you mount the new version?
Well, we have a very extensive process. You just grab it, you get it as an Amazon package, you cut it open, you take it out, and you go find any office trailer, container, storage, fully magnetic, sits on top of the wall, and that's it. So
Oh,
if
so
you,
that's a fairly strong magnet.
yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
again, we have a lot of smart engineers. And then if you're sitting in a basement, indoors area, it has those Dumbo elephant ear, we can just screw it into drywall, metal stud, whatever you want, and be up and running.
I like it. It's definitely it's a lot smaller than the original one too, huh?
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah,
way more
it's
rugged
so
and like,
so talk me through that initial. This is something our listeners always like to hear, right? Like, you just, off of a couple minutes of talking with you, I can tell you take feedback very seriously, and you implement it. Talk me through, how quickly was it like that you looked at that current feedback from version 1 to go to this new version? What did that process look like, and what do those conversations internally sound like, if you're willing to share?
yeah, of course. I mean, first of all, I have to, and this is by all means not a way of tapping myself on the shoulder because we're nowhere near the finish line. But hardware is hard, and it's called that for a reason, right? There is no shortcuts. Um, Everything is a thesis, it's an assumption, and you execute, and then you see how it goes. We definitely went through many iterations. There's like this is a version basically 2, and this is basically 4. So we went through like many iterations, and there is 2.1, 2.2, so many iterations also in between. Uh, Usually the problem with innovation, and this is maybe a small tangent I'm going to take here. The problem with innovation is that it's not digitization, right? Digitization is easy, it's simple, it's basically a paper form or a payment process that you're trying to digitize. This one, when you're trying to digitize, you have to listen very carefully to the customers and basically understand their flow and digitize it. When you're trying to innovate, you should do almost the opposite. And it's very not intuitive because you're trying to build a process that the customers can't even see, and it's your job to foresee. There is zero engineer or zero customers that I could have reached out to in the last 5 years and they said, I really want to solve this problem. And they could have even thought of let's build a kiosk on a bear. It's not intuitive, doesn't make sense. They would have been build me an app on an iPad and put this form on it. So we always listen to our clients very carefully, but we always wanted to listen for their pain points, not their suggestions. Because they always wanted to mimic a clipboard. And we're like, this is not the point. Like, tell me what is the struggle. And basically what allowed us to move from this to this is a lot of uh, physical, like in-person installations and training. And for instance, we realized that every time this whole barrel is being installed right next to an office trailer and right next to it. And I would ask, why is it next to office trailer? Why don't put it in the middle of the park? He's like, no, that's where they come pick up their gear. That's where they come to sign off on the sheet. That's where that's where they have to submit their documents at the end of the day. And then we realized, okay, we have this huge infrastructure, office trailer, think of your mobile mini, think of your sunbed rentals, whatever. It's just sitting there on every lot. And then somehow we have to put this barrel that is big to ship, big to move, wind tips it over, yada yada. And then this was kind of how the innovation. And we said, oh, if we have put it on the wall, would you be okay with it? Like, oh, that'd be amazing. I'll save this few square feet of that. And that's how kind of we evolved.
Outside of what you've built, what other technologies do you think contractors should take a look at?
Oh, I mean, depends on the trade. There's a lot, but I think 360 scanning is definitely a mandatory. Mandatory not from necessarily just a productivity standpoint, but from a documentation standpoint. And from what I personally love is remote management. Remote doesn't not doesn't work from home, but if I'm managing 5 job sites and I want to see the progress on a daily basis, I can be in one place at a time. So it would be great if at the end of the day, someone can send me a 360 snapshot of the project and I can go through it, do a quick walkthrough and be, okay, I thought unit 603 should be done. Why are we not done yet? Right? It goes far beyond text, far beyond daily logs or whatnot. So this is one. Another one, there is a company we're very close to. It's called Document Crunch. They do, uh, they kind of were AI before AI was this whole buzz thing. They're trying to just accentuate or accelerate your legal document review without having to go through lawyers. So this is meant only for your field. If you have a change order, if you have a document of like 18 to like 80 pages, you're nowhere near equipped to read it. So instead of having bounce back, and even if you have counsel that can review it, you need to know what this means, right? You're not going to go through 80 pages of extensive legal lingo. So this is amazing. It sums it up for you in construction lingo, gives you the gist of it. What is the contractor asking for me? Should you sign off it? What are you committing to? Yada yada. I think it's like priceless.
The Document Crunch is actually coming on the podcast soon too, which I'm excited about. So now I'm even more excited because of
Yeah.
what you just said. What I guess as we wrap up here, what are your thoughts on the current state of construction and innovation right now?
I think it's in an amazing place. Big ways like Procore have basically paid the price and like carved the path ahead of us. Definitely, we have to give credit where credit is due. They bled and they became a unicorn, but they deserve it. They did everything right. They probably were an early product at some point. They basically introduced the concept of the field being. Uh, they basically commoditized the field requiring technology and internet, right? So when probably like 5 or maybe 10 years ago, having internet on a job site was a luxury. Now it's becoming as mandatory as electricity, right? Like you can operate a couple $1 million north job site with pen and paper. It's just like absolutely out of the equation. And because of this infrastructure, a lot of companies are being able to piggyback on, oh, now that power is accessible and technology is accessible and people are on this, like iPads, everyone has an iPad or a laptop, which again, 10 years ago would have been, you had to go back to the office to sit on a laptop. You're just sitting with drawings in the field. And this is not 50 years ago. This is like now, very recent. So I think this has definitely opened a lot of opportunity. For instance, a very good like friend, and they're also here local in Florida, a startup called Subbase. Uh, they're basically doing amazing things by having the field automatically order material, and they're basically reinventing the whole like purchasing cycle where it's from the field to the accounting to the supplier with the pricing with the delivery all in one basically like simple process. Those are stuff that without tech and without tablets and connectivity would be like absolutely impossible a few years ago.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how much things have evolved, and it's just going to get better now, right? Because of you mentioned Procure, they pave the path, which someone has to be first, right? It helps everyone else too, and they did a great job in doing that. Hope to have them on at some point as well to kind of see what the future looks like through their lens. But I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to talk about having you come back on in the future to give us an update. And thanks for giving us a unique approach where you were actually able to show on the show. So anyone that's listening, go check out the video too, so you can see the old and the new version of the product that SmartBarrel has. And Albert, I wish you the best of luck. Super excited for you and love your passion.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and yeah, looking forward to chatting further.